The day after the attack, Governor, I stood in the Rose Garden and I told the American people and the world that we were going to find out exactly what happened, that this was an act of terror, and I also said that we're going to hunt down those who committed this crime.
Governor, if you want to reply just quickly to this, please.
I certainly do. I think it's interesting the president just said something which is that on the day after the attack, he went to the Rose Garden and said that this was an act of terror.
That's what I said.
You said in the Rose Garden, the day after the attack, it was an act of terror. It was not a spontaneous demonstration. Is that what you're saying?
Please proceed, Governor.
I want to make sure we get that for the record, because it took the president 14 days before he called the attack in Benghazi an act of terror.
Get the transcript.
He did, in fact, sir. So let me call it an act of terror.
Can you say that a little louder, Candy?
He did call it an act of terror. It did as well take 2 weeks or so for the whole idea of there being a riot out there about this tape to come out. You're correct about that.
Well, that was a key moment in last night's presidential debate when moderator Candy Crowley interrupted Governor Romney and, according to some, went from objective moderator to active participant by actually defending the president and then trying to qualify her initial statement. Crowley appeared on her colleague Anderson Cooper's show afterward in an attempt to walk back some of what happened. Here she is defending herself.
So I knew that the president had said, you know, these acts of terror won't stand, or whatever the whole quote was. And I think actually, you know, because right after that, I did turn around and say, but you're totally correct that they spent 2 weeks telling us this was about a tape and that there was this riot outside the Benghazi consulate, which there wasn't. So he was right in the main. I just think he picked the wrong word.
Well, this has become a huge debate today, with Crowley doing a series of appearances both on CNN and ABC's The View to essentially repeat the defense you just saw. Joining me now to discuss it, our focus group. These are folks from all stripes, independents, Democrats, and Republicans, and we want to get your reaction to what we saw last night. Is that a fair charge that she went from independent moderator to somebody who put her thumb on the scale? Kevin McCullough, let me start with you.
Actually, it's not just a fair charge. I would say she didn't become a participant. She became an advocate. And she was principally wrong on the substance of her argument, which made it all the worse because the rules had kept the moderator to a limited position for a reason, for the American people to decide what the candidates were saying, not to have it interpreted by a journalist who shouldn't be getting in the way.
Mm-hmm. You have power as a moderator, as the straight news journalist, because people hopefully will look at you and think, all right, this isn't a partisan, this is somebody who's going to tell me the truth. And so there's danger in being the fact checker on the spot. Did she abuse that power? Basil Smikle.
I don't think she abused the power. I think because if you see her in her interview subsequent to last night, she did say, and you could see it from the clip, that she actually wanted to give Romney the benefit of the doubt really at the same time. But Romney, being what he was last night and as a bit of a bully, was also interrupting her in her ability to do that. So she actually tried to be fair at that moment, but it just didn't come out. And I do not have a problem with a moderator being an instant fact checker, because quite frankly, I think the voters need that.
If they get it right. But well, even she admitted after the fact that she did not get it right, that Mitt Romney actually did make a valid point.
Well, she said that last night, but she also said that the president was right as well, and the president,
but he wasn't.
But that's the point.
Go ahead, Tony, say it.
The point was, it was up to debate. So in other words, you're going to think she got it right. I don't think she got it right. In other words, shouldn't the president be the one defending himself and not Candy Crowley? And in this instance, as we know with debates, these are momentum moments. Barack Obama was sitting in that chair. You could see it in his face. He was asking the governor to go ahead, please proceed. He had him on the ropes, and Candy Crowley was his lifeline. But let's remember one thing. What do Republicans want to talk about is the inconsistency of this president on Benghazi Gate. So she's actually handed us a real opportunity as Republicans to now talk about this, because if this was just a Romney-Obama dynamic without her intervention, it would not be viewed through this prism of media bias that I think accelerates the charge.
There's a piece on Mediaite.com, which is an interesting website, by Noah Rothman, who says this is the reason that there is so much distrust in the Fourth Estate, because so many supposedly straight news journalists default to a Democratic point of view in viewing a dispute. When she said he did say it, when she sided with the president and then tried to offer a caveat as her second point, she stated it much better in her defending herself and Anderson Cooper than she did in the debate. She did not actually articulate Governor Romney's position during the debate when the 70 million people were watching. Just watch what she actually said in the debate and then what she claims she said. Watch.
It did as well take 2 weeks or so for the whole idea of there being a riot out there about this tape to come out. You're correct about that. I did turn around and say, but you're totally correct that they spent 2 weeks telling us this was about a tape and that there was this riot outside the Benghazi consulate, which there wasn't.
Carol Roth?
It was clear she was the third debater here, and I think the issue is that she was supposed to be a moderator. If we wanted somebody who was a surrogate or somebody who was a pundit, they should have clearly said this is her role, but her role was to moderate, and she didn't do that in an effective way, and I think that that's what gets people up in arms, whether it's in this debate, whether it's the headline, it's the spin. Just present the facts. The American people are smart, and they can figure it out, but we need the information, not your perspective.
I couldn't disagree more. I mean, the facts are that Candy Crowley did a great job pushing back against a bully in Mitt Romney. And when she corrected him, she went back and she also said, you know what, you have a fair point, too. But the fact remains...
But she didn't.
The fact remains that...
But let me just say this. I grant you that she tried. She did try to say, okay, but then it took you 2 weeks to call this a terrorism act, and all that while you were talking about a protest. But she didn't. But she didn't say that. She actually didn't say that.
But can I talk about a larger point, which is
I want to stay on this.
It's sort of amazing that in the face of a relatively poor performance by Romney, all we're talking about is the moderator, Candy Crowley. That sort of underscores...
Don't start with me. This is a 2-hour program. This is what this panel's focused on. We got a lot of other things in the show. Go ahead, Tracy Davis.
I thought it was really despicable, because it was like she was acting like God, because, what they can't argue with her. She's the moderator. And it's and he has suddenly, Obama, which is typical, and it's because he's politicized this whole thing. Now he's used these words of active terror, which he meant at the time in general because of 9/11. Otherwise, he would not have left and gone to Las Vegas that afternoon.
Let me challenge you on that. They can't argue with her? Why not? One's president, one wants to be president. Britt Hume made the point last night. Why didn't Mitt Romney turn to her, turn to Barack Obama and say, okay, you believed it was terror on September 12th. Why did you send the UN ambassador on 5 Sunday shows 4 or 5 days after that to say it was about a spontaneous video? Why does Mitt Romney need Candy Crowley to defend him?
That's my point. Why are we piling on Candy Crowley instead of Mitt Romney and Barack Obama?
So we are talking about Candy Crowley because she did change everything. We should have been talking about Benghazi. Listen, we should have been talking about Benghazi and the 4 dead Americans. This was a very important subject matter. And look what we're talking about. Candy Crowley, because Tony's right. She did change everything. She gave him the lifeline. It was too, listen.
Romney lost the opportunity to make a point, and that's why we're talking about this. That is why we're talking about this.
But it's still 2 against 1.
The Republicans on this panel, are you upset because Candy Crowley weighed in, or are you upset because your guy didn't do
exactly why we're talking about Candy Crowley?
Obama lied again. That's why I'm upset. Because he comes up with this idea.
In all candor, and we all have to admit this, Mitt Romney missed an opportunity to really nail the Libya question. However, he wasn't wrong on the fact. Then why for 2 weeks? Then why for 2 weeks? Then why for 2 weeks, Zerlina? That this administration put every major surrogate out there saying that this was a riot that was induced by
Hold on.
He was on that attack. That's exactly what was happening. He had repivoted. He had Obama on the ropes, and then she took the air out of his fire.
He froze up when Obama said active terror, and he focused in on words that were technically spoken, and they went down this path.
The bottom line is that Romney is a Harvard-educated lawyer. He should have known to check the transcript. Maybe he needs to put transcripts in his binders full of whatever. So I think that, the bottom line here is that Romney thought, he got Obama, he had him on the ropes, and he was wrong on the facts. And that is what the point is.
Romney is not used to being checked on facts, and this was new for Romney, to have somebody actually push back. I mean, I think myth is short for mythological, because if you think about the whole series of, you know, his magical mystery math when it comes to his tax cuts.
All right, but we're not going to get on topic. Let me ask you this. Let me follow up with you on this. The danger, as I see it, as the moderator, of doing the on-the-spot fact check on an issue that's not, you know, cold one way or the other, is you do it on one thing, and then the fact that you haven't done it on the rest.
Only one.
John, go ahead.
I would totally agree.
That's for John.
I would totally agree. I think that it would be great to have fact checkers on the spot. I know the Romney campaign says they won't be constrained by fact checkers.
But either all or none is what I'm asking you. That's the way it should be done.
She intervened like
I think it should be all.
She
totally
redirected a number of occasions.
Go ahead, Bernard.
She redirected on a number of occasions. She said before the debate that she was going to ignore the rules and she was going to redirect. And I think the American people appreciate that. She held Romney and Barack Obama to the fact. Barack Obama did a better job of forcing Mitt Romney to tell the truth, and I think that's why Republicans are upset.
What do you make of the fact? But let me just step back. Let me step back and ask this. Hold on. He did say act of terror the day after the Libya murders. He did.
But context matters.
The context matters.
Exactly.
And is there anybody on this panel that believes Barack Obama was declaring this a terrorist attack?
No.
On that day, 4 days before he sent the ambassador out to say exactly the opposite, that it was fun. Do you believe that that's the messaging coming out of the administration?
Because
at that point, Tracy, this is for Zerlina.
I certainly think that he was calling the attack in Libya a terrorist attack, saying it was an act of terror or a terrorist attack.
No, it matters. It matters. So I'm asking you which message you think he was actually trying to send the week of these murders.
I think that he was talking about it being a terrorist attack and bringing the people who did it to justice.
Megyn,
I'm not the only person in America.
True, then the actions of Ambassador Rice are even more deplorable. Because if he admitted that it was a terrorist act and then pretended when he went on Univision, Letterman, The View, and the United Nations mentioning it 6 times, then he was the one.
Why did he do that? I got to go quickly.
Let me ask this one question. Because there is a debate about what it exactly meant, why did Candy Crowley come as the final judge of what it meant?
No, the American people are the final judge.
And now this is how I know we're done. This is when we get to that point, I know it's over.
First Hillary, then
Thank you all.
Candy. Two
Thank
women
you all
bailed
so
him
much
out.
for being
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.